Instead of America going to the Philippines, Australia sent people to the Philippines, and he trained a number of men. I mean, Gary did, not John, not Art, not... Gary did. Gary trained Paul Newman. And then Paul went and he trained a Filipino named Ben. He trained a number of men, but one of the men he trained was Ben. And Ben went out and gave a seminar where a whole bunch of people were at. I mean, over 100 of them. And this person right here was a father, heard the gospel of Jesus Christ for the very first time in the Philippines and came to know Jesus Christ. He went home that afternoon and he led his wife and his 2 children to the Lord right there in his home. His wife and his 2 children. Now just look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Those 3 people, according to Jesus Christ, are going to be in heaven someday because of that thread that didn't break. It didn't fall apart. It didn't unravel. And I remember that evening taking that little piece of paper, because this obviously wasn't written on a whiteboard in my study at home. It was a little piece, just scratching it out, trying to figure out how did it really happen. I remember taking a little piece of paper and almost running upstairs and showing it to my wife, Darlene, and said, "Sweetheart, look at this piece of paper." I mean, can you imagine when Dr. Hendricks hits glory and sees all these people? Because all these people have been impacted by the faithfulness that he's had all these years. And in reality, there's something like this triangle that goes on for every one of these people, isn't it? If they've been faithful. And all these teachers, and all these teachers. Can you imagine Hendricks when he tops glory? And she said to me, you know, that is really something. That's really a wonderful story. But I think if Dr. Hendricks was here, he might draw this a little differently. I said, what do you mean? What do you mean? He says, well, sweetheart, do you remember when he told us on that trip that we took with him how he met Jesus Christ? Well, he was in the 6th grade, and he was growing up in a broken home in Philadelphia. And he said one day he was playing marbles on the sidewalk in Philadelphia, 6th grade, and was on his knees playing with some of his buddies. And he said a kind of an older man, kind of lanky, tall, worked his way over to him and just stood next to them as they played marbles. His name was Walt, and they found out he worked down in the factory, and he attended a church down the street. Finally, Walt kind of knelt down and said, can I play marbles with you guys? Dr. Henry said, here I was in 6th grade, and this great big adult said, can I play marbles with us? So I said, well, sure, okay, go ahead. Walt said that every day, Walt would come down after work, and he'd kneel down and start playing marbles with him. And one day, as the weeks went by, he said, will you guys come to my Sunday school class with me? Dr. Hendricks said, we didn't know we had a Sunday school class. That's the first time he said anything. He said, well, tell us about your Sunday school class. And he says, well, I don't have one yet, but maybe you guys could help me start my Sunday school class. And Dr. Hendricks says that's how he and his buddies really came to know Jesus Christ. They went to a Sunday school, and at that very Sunday school class, Dr. Hendricks, in time, came to know Christ. Dr. Hendricks also said that during that whole period of time, the whole Sunday school class came to know Jesus Christ. And later on that trip, Dr. Hendricks said, you know, all 12 of us came to know Jesus Christ. And 11 of us went into full-time Christian service. And 11 of the 12 of us are still today in full-time Christian work. My friends, it's all because of a 6th grade Sunday school teacher. You see, standing behind all these masses, all these people, is obviously Dr. Hendricks. But my wife, Darlene, hit the nail right on the head. She said, you know, there's somebody standing behind him. I think he'd be kind of sheepish and uncomfortable at the attention because he's a very humble man who was faithful in his gift. And he said, I can't teach the masses. I could never do that. But I can play marbles with 6th grade boys. And if you really wanted to finish this, you'd have to put behind Dr. Howard Hendricks is a man named Walt. And indeed, the world has never been the same since, has it? Can you imagine what happens when Walt tops glory Therefore, my friend, never again underestimate the eternal impact of your teaching. Don't ever say to yourself, this class isn't going to make a difference. Don't ever say to yourself, I think I'll take 5 or 10 years off. What? Do you want to give up perhaps the most strategic thing you're doing? Well, it's time then, isn't it? For you to make a decision right now. For you to once again make a commitment that from now on, no matter how hard it is, no matter what it takes, that you're going to keep on going. You're going to keep on equipping others for service. Because if you do, then won't your life become the cornerstone of a whole new pyramid just like this? And maybe someday when you hit glory, you'll realize that because you were a faithful Sunday school teacher, you have masses standing in front of you saying, thank you. Therefore, why don't you take a moment right now, and in the bottom of that page in your notebook, just cement your commitment down. Put your initials and date it. Go ahead. Nail it down. Your initials. I commit to equip for service. Well, my friends, it's only on the other side of the threshold of glory that you and I are going to finally know what our service really meant. Think about all the teachers who've touched your life in a positive way. They've passed a torch to you. Now it's your turn to grab a hold of that torch with both hands, with all of your heart, and turn and pass it on to the next generation. In just a minute, this tape is going to stop and the lights are going to come on up. And everyone around you are going to nod and smile and say polite things. You know, class is over. But my friends, if you let yourself walk out of here without keeping this commitment to commit others for service, if you drop the torch that Walt has passed to you, then you have missed the opportunity of your lifetime. I can promise you that what you've learned here today, just picture on this board, will revolutionize your teaching. It will change your life and the lives of your students. Walt passed the torch, didn't he, to Dr. Hendricks. And I was fortunate enough to be standing there when Dr. Hendricks passed it to me. And now I'm passing it to you. And then the next time when you're in your class, you pick out those committed students and take a hold of that torch with a firm look in your eye and resolve in your heart. You pass it on to them. I'm not going to be there. I'm not going to see it. But you know what? It's between you and the Lord. But I promise you, you apply this law, you be a Walt to someone, and the torch you pass will light the world.